BioRhythms. I'm Terrance Afer-Anderson. I have a very, very special guest in the studio with me this evening, a friend of mine. We go back more than 3 decades. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Rod Sutter.
How you doing?
Pretty good, brother.
Good to be here. It is a pleasure. I finally relented, and I'm on.
Well, I'm glad to have you. I truly am. And I mean, I know you fairly well, but there's a whole lot of stuff about you that I'm sure that I don't know. And as this is a biographical portrait, I'd like to begin with your early years, because you've been doing theater for a long time.
Yes, I have.
And in case you are not aware, Rod is an actor.
Yeah,
an actor and a playwright, a director?
Songwriter.
Songwriter?
Yeah.
You do it all.
Music producer. Radio, that is.
Yeah, and you've done a lot of that. And I want to talk about the radio as well. But let's begin in the early years. When you were a youngster, you started doing theater at an early age, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I was working at a place on 22nd Street behind Sears, the old Sears. See, this is dating me.
You're going way
This is really
back.
dating. It's called the Talent Opportunity Workshop.
Okay.
You know, and I met a woman there, Mozella Mitchell, and they were doing Amy Cesaire's season in the Congo about the rise and fall of Patrice Lumumba. And
how old were you then?
I was probably about 15 years old.
Wow. Okay.
And I was actually an oil and canvas artist, and I was doing clay sculpture at the time. And they came and they said, you know, we got this show, kid. We need everybody. So everybody from the workshop, including the little kids, because there was, you know, scenes where King Basilio of Belgium and these people would come, and they had the children come and meet him. And so everyone in the workshop had a part of this, and it was done actually at the Center Theater, which is now the Harrison Opera House.
Really? It was done at the Center Theater?
Yeah. Okay. It was a great show. I played 23 parts.
Tell us about those parts. That's quite an accomplishment for someone 15 years old.
Well, they very rarely had any lines except at the end when I was Msiri, the assassin, the guy who actually killed Patrice Lumumba. There was a character there, but I was like an airplane pilot, as King Basilio of Belgium, you know, a representative of the press. Just thousands of 23 different little entities.
It felt like thousands, right?
It felt like thousands because they kept piling these costumes on and piling the costumes on. At one point, I come out as King Basilio of Belgium, and they have the King Basilio of Belgium visits, and I see these people in the wings.
While you're on stage?
Yeah, while I'm on stage, and they're all motioning. And I'm like, what do they want me to be bigger? What are they? And then somebody actually points down, and I'm King Basilio. I look down, and the uniform that I'm wearing in the next scene as the airplane pilot is hanging out underneath Basilio's suit. So I turn around and I you know, put the thing in there, and so we go on with the scene.
So Basilio was moonlighting.
Oh, definitely.
Way ahead of his time.
It's like, wow, he's ready for combat underneath there, you know, or what have you. But then we did the scene, the next scene, I think there's a plane crash, you know, and then I had some lines there. I couldn't, with my young voice, you know, I can't hold the controls, Captain, you know, that kind of thing. And then, of course, the great Ralph Reeves, this guy who played Patrice Lumumba. And he was one of the great actors, black actors.
This is a local actor?
Yes, Ralph Reeves. He was one of the great black actors in Hampton Roads at the time. And, you know, I was in awe, you know.
Now, this was back in the 60s.
This was actually, yes, back in the 60s.
I was still in nursery school now.
I'm dating myself, but yes, it was in the 60s. And at the end, he says, you know, you can shoot me. Go ahead. I'm not sweating. I'm as cool as a cucumber. And I go and I pull the trigger on this gun. And the one particular night, the sound effect doesn't happen. And he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. And, you know, as a 15-year, I just go, and what a professional. He grabbed his chest, you know, and just expired right there. But that was the high point of the cast party. Everybody was like, did you see him? He was great with that, you know. And I remember the show because we were talking before, right. They had these albums they were giving out. You know, Stevie Wonder, Diana Ross, a solo album, Diana Ross and the Supremes. I wound up getting the Undisputed Truth.
Who was that? That is familiar.
That is the old Motown group, and I think later in life.
I'm sorry, the name of the group was
The Undisputed Truth.
Wow.
It was an old Motown group.
Okay.
And I can't even remember, it got me going in circles is one of their,
that was Friends of Distinction that did.
Oh, that's what it was, the Friends of Distinction.
Okay.
Well then, that's what I got.
That's Cuba Gooding Sr.
Oh.
He was in the Friends of Distinction.
Okay, yeah, I got that. I got that.
Okay.
Friends of Distinction. See,
So you went
confusing.
from what was the name of the theater again there?
No, that was the Talent Opportunity Workshop.
Okay.
And then when I left there, by the time I got into Granby High School, I was also in the band. I played drums and percussion at Blair Middle. I did 1 year at Morey. And then busing came in, and I wound up going to Granby. And there were too many people in the band. You had to select a different instrument or something. And so I played football, and I went into the drama club. It was after I broke my hand recovering a fumble, I decided, okay, this is not for me. I went to the drama department, and there we Betty Hoover. Bet Hoover was our instructor. Yeah, well, a lot of people were very inspirational to me, and I try and always remember the people who inspired me, and to give them, I think that I'm not going to say I think she is no longer with us. I'm not sure for certain. I know I talked to her son, who's a friend of mine, on Facebook from time to time. But I did. Good Man Charlie Brown. I played Snoopy at Granby. Right. And I played El Gallo in the Fantastics.
Oh, you did that in high school?
Yes.
Oh,
yes. Okay. And we always at Granby did our shows at the school, and then we went out into the community and did them at the Little Theater of Norfolk, at Tidewater Dinner, at Cavalier. And once I was exposed, I said, when these things are out here, I need to try and get into some of those things.
Certainly.
So I made it kind of my mission to sort of break what I called the color barrier, because a lot of times there wasn't a lot of work for us in what they considered mainstream theater. So I became a founding member of the Chrysler Museum Actors Theater, where I did Death of Bessie Smith. I played the orderly. Along with the great Buzz Stephanie. Buzz went to the D.C.
Now you're calling names that, I thought I knew a lot about theater in town, but you're calling names that I've not heard before.
And he actually...
And I want to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to take a break right now, though. But so we're going to come back, and you're going to continue giving me a history lesson in theater.
All right.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Back to BioRhythms, talking to a very good friend of mine, a talented, gifted actor and director, again, Rod Sutter. So, we were talking about Granby High School.
Right.
Give us a little bit more about Granby, then we're going to move on.
All right, now of course, at the time, we also started what we had the Magic Trunk Players at Granby, which morphed later on into the germ of the idea for Hurrah, which it was a thing where we would come out of a trunk, all of us players, and we would do all these different skits, comedy, freelance type things, and then we would get back into the trunk and vanish at the end of the show. Norfolk used to, at that time, had a competition yearly, I think all of Hampton Roads, about theater, and we would all show up to Tidewater Dinner Theater, somewhere like that, and they had these competitions where everybody presented a one-act play, and us being rebels, the rebels that we were at Granby, we decided we're not doing a one-act play, we're doing this Magic Trunk thing. And like I said, it was improv, pantomime, it was all kinds of special stuff, but we went around, we did that, and then of course, By the Skin of Our Teeth.
Yes.
With the Antrobuses. We did that show also, and
now, but at some point you started doing theater at what was the Stage Down Under and Chrysler Museum Theater.
Right. Well, what happened was
Stage Down Under being at Chrysler Hall.
Right. A friend of mine actually told me that this lady, Billy Feddersen, was looking for people to do this plays for living.
It was Billy rather than Stan Feddersen?
Yes.
Okay.
I met Billy first, and she had this troupe, and we went out to churches and different places, and we did this show, I remember, called For Sale, about black people buying a house in a white neighborhood. And we would go to the different congregations and do the show rather, and then after the show, they would have a forum about how they felt about black people moving into the neighborhood or about integration. And there were a lot of shows like that.
This was in the 60s or 70s?
This was in the 70s then. Right. And then, of course, by meeting Billy, I was able to meet Stan and then able to hang out at the Norfolk Theater Center, which became the Stage Down Under. And the Theater Center is the old library that is in down the street from the YWCA there, where the Khedive Temple is back there. And you go upstairs and you see a show, and I remember seeing...
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, I remember seeing Oh Dad, Poor Dad, Mommy's Dead, and you buried him in the basement or what have you. So I got a chance to meet a lot of different people, and they kind of let me hang around, build sets, do different things, and by watching these actors work, you were exposed to, what the craft was. Right. And of course, that led into me becoming a founding member of the Chrysler Museum Theater, which was Walter Chrysler's baby, and we did maybe two seasons there.
Actually at the museum.
At the museum. Jerry Rowe, Marty McGraw, the first family of theater in Hampton Roads at the time.
For those of our viewers that are not aware, those names are icons in the theater community. Stan Feddersen, Jerry Rowe, and so forth. Marty McGraw. I mean, real icons. And we have some folks that are likely going to be joining us from Las Vegas as well.
Oh,
so
great.
For our Las Vegas viewers, these people in the Norfolk community were real theatrical icons. But go right ahead.
So I got a chance to be exposed to them and watch them work. Wally Dole directed me, and I'm just name dropping here. Names are just popping into my head. I don't know why, but Wally Dole directed me in the Death of Bessie Smith, and the great Stephanie Rula. She was a fantastic actress that played the nurse who would chide the orderly.
Let me ask you something, Rodney. You are a very seasoned, prolific actor. Is there, you probably have a catalog of maybe 60 to 70 different shows, at least that you've done. Is there one show that stands out more than any other? And if so, what might that show be?
For me, it was when I did Gospel at Colonus at Old Dominion University.
Why Gospel at Colonus?
I just loved playing Preacher Oedipus. I loved the music. I loved the whole feel of it. I just felt like it was a very powerful role.
Give me a one-sentence description of that show for our viewers. How would you describe Gospel at Colonus?
It is Oedipus set to gospel.
Oh, that's a fair description. Okay.
That's basically what it is.
And you played?
I played the preacher Oedipus. There are two Oedipuses. There's a singer Oedipus who sings the part, and then there's preacher Oedipus. Now, I wound up playing preacher Oedipus because I just walked in. Here's a guy that plays Snoopy and Good Man Charlie Brown, a guy on the Fantastics. I did the Apple Tree where I played Zanbars. I can't remember the character's name. That was a long time ago. Anyway, here I walk in and they go, okay, Mr. Sutter, now we want you to sing. And I went, no, I don't.
I don't sing.
I just don't, because I was just like, okay, I don't. And then, of course, when the show was happening, we had this great gospel quintet on stage. and they were singing the thing where Oedipus comes and he's trying to get in close, and there's stop, do not go on, you know. And I'm standing up there at my dais as the minister, woo, 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 you know, I'm really into it. And the director comes to me and she goes, Mr. Sutter, you lied to me. And I said, what do you mean I lied? She says, you are singing with that quintet. I said, I didn't say I couldn't sing. I said, I don't. There's a difference.
So why is that particular character so important to you? Why is it so memorable?
We had a full gospel choir. Just the caliber of people. Timberly Hill, who is on Marry Me Now and out in LA working, and I'm so proud of her. She was my daughter. She played Antigone in the story.
Yes.
And so it was just a fantastic production, and it was very inspiring for me.
What was that show that we
Plus,
did?
Morgan Freeman played that role on Broadway, so
really?
I felt very honored to try and film.
What was the South African piece that we did with you and Pedro Abad?
Oh,
we created Antigone.
The Island.
The Island. That was The Island by Ethel Fuller.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to take another break, and then we're going to talk a bit more about your work at the Virginia Stage Company, the #1 regional theater in Hampton Roads. Stay tuned. Okay, the Virginia Stage Company is the only theater in Hampton Roads that is a member of the League of Regional Theaters. It's a Lord Theater, Union House. And you've done a bunch of work at the Virginia Stage Company.
Yes, I did.
What have you done?
Cat on the Hot Tin Roof after the renovation in the 80s.
After the renovation of the theater.
After the renovation
Going
of
way back, really?
Yeah.
Back in the 80s? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was Lacey the butler in that.
Okay.
And right after that, of course, when they had the Black Media Professionals.
Hampton Roads Black Media Professionals?
That's right. You had me play Frederick Douglass for them.
I used to direct all of those shows,
Yeah.
all of the award shows.
Yeah. So that was my second appearance on their stage. And then, of course, I wound up doing the world premiere of Line in the Sand. I did To Kill a Mockingbird, Fences as Bono just recently. That was an interesting season because I was in Fences at the beginning of the season, the first show of the season as Bono, and then the last show of the season I was Murray the Cop
in the
Odd Couple, and people were like, wait a minute, didn't we see you before? But they couldn't kind of put it together because I was doing, you know, the Murray the Cop, the New York accent there. And then I was doing
a great job too.
The Pittsburgh thing with Bono. So.
Well, you know, what's interesting is, you know, I've done a lot of theater reviews, and I reviewed a couple of those shows, and it's always interesting reviewing friends, particularly folks that I know to be, you know, master artists, you know, and so forth. But you were cast against type as Murray the Cop.
Yeah.
I can't recall who directed that.
Patrick Mullins.
Okay.
And Patrick called me up. Patrick says, Rodney, we need some card players. So would you like to do The Odd Couple? And I was like, oh, well, sure. You know, it's really a blessing for me because at the time I'm just sitting around and going through some things with the family, you know, some medical things that were happening. And so it was like, okay, yeah, I would do that. And then he says, well, I want you to do Murray. And it was like, oh, Murray. I was like, well, how do you want me to do it? You know, it's like, well, we're back in the 60s. We're going to do it right in period. So I said, all right, then I'm Murray, who hangs out with these guys. What's my backstory? Well, I went to school with Oscar, and I was a basketball player who's not a basketball player anymore, or a football player, something like that to do with sports. And so that's how I'm with these guys.
How important, and I know the answer to this, but I want to hear it from you. How important is research in terms of cultivating and sculpting character?
It really helps to root the character. It gives you a basis as an artist for what you are doing in the moment that the script is telling you. You have to have some type of a backstory to work yourself into it. What were you doing before this? What, if your character doesn't die, are you doing after this?
Yes, the pre-life and the afterlife.
So, and then, of course, to me, though, I always feel like sometimes it's like channeling, because sometimes I can't find a character. I remember doing Broke over the summer, over one summer for the Generic Theater for their new plays. And this was a guy who was, he had a son, who was, you know, biracial, who was living in this apartment. He was the landlord, but he had all of these different relationships with these people.
Right.
You know, one girl, he's actually dating her. You know, he's dealing pot to these people. You know, he's, you know, you don't have the rent. You know, and of course the son doesn't want anybody to know that this guy is his father. So he had to go through all of this. And I remember one night I'm doing my dialogue after a rehearsal, and I'm like, this guy is just not coming to me. I don't feel this at all. And right there, sitting on the center island in my kitchen, it was like boom, like a bolt of lightning. It's like it hit me, and he came to me. You know, and it was like, there he is. I knew what his backstory was.
Right.
I knew what his future was, but he just to come to me, you know, what is it to me? So a lot of times it takes some time for me to find that, you know.
So what else have you done?
Well, I did Blind Vision with Debbie Shelton, who was a local who came back to Norfolk, and she did a motion
picture. She was the Miss USA, wasn't she?
Yes, she was Miss USA and a Norfolk Neptune cheerleader.
Yes.
And I did that with her and her husband, Sugar Levy, who directed. I got a chance to meet Ned Beatty in that one, and Robert Vaughn, and Lenny Van Dolen. So, you know, it was good. It just like with tracks, I got a chance to meet Priscilla Barnes, Robert Davi. I met Robert Davi, and I'm going, oh, it's Robert Davi. Oh. And he's looking at me going, you're the stage actor. What, are you kidding me?
Oh.
I'm in awe of you. I'm like, oh, me? I'm nobody. I'm just, I go out, I trod the boards every night, and, you know, and then I go out and party. I was like, that's about it. But you're Robert Davi, you know. And everybody, when I got there, it was like, ladies and gentlemen, the stage actor is on this side. I was like, oh, man,
wow.
This is trouble.
Made a big deal.
You know.
So now you directed a bit as well.
Yes. Matter of fact, I owe that to you, because when I was with On Cue Productions,
the company that we ran,
you had me direct Hunter by Harold Newbold Stewart.
Yeah, oh yeah.
My first real directorial thing, you know, and it was a good experience because
we did that at the Gallery 737.
Yes, It was a great experience because I got a chance to use, you know, some of the other talents that I hadn't been using in a while, you know. Because everybody, when they're studying theater, they do their director's notebooks and stuff like that. It's a side project and stuff. But this was actually being there and doing that. I've directed Fences.
You directed me in Fences.
Yes, I did. I directed you in Seven Guitars also.
Seven Guitars, yes.
Now, also, I've... I can't remember.
Well, unfortunately, we could go on and on and on and on, but we have to end the show.
Well, it's been a pleasure coming on with you.
It's been a great pleasure to have you, sir. It's been a real pleasure to have you, and we have to have you come back. Guys, we want to thank you for joining us for this edition of BioRhythms, and please tell all your friends about this exciting program happening right here in Hampton Roads, Virginia, being distributed across the country very soon. Thank you so very much. Thank you.